Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everybody. My name is miahtheking, and the easiest time to add insult to injury is when you're signing someone's cast. Today we're taking a look at a game called Captainofindustry, an automation resource management sim game that was released in May of last year. So why am I doing a video on it now? Simple. I'm now offering something quite extravagant. Same-day reviews. That's what this one is called. Same-day review. What is that anyway? That means you make a suggestion in my comments section, and I'll do the review of that game that day, unless I have already done a review of a game that day. All right, I can't put out that many a day. All right, I'll do one a day. That's the most I can do. But you request it, and I'll try to get it out that day, trying to save all of you out there some time. I mean, how can I do this? You might be wondering. Simple. I have no life and 30 years of video gaming experience. So, if there's a game that you'd like me to review, then let me know in the comments, and I'll try my best to get it posted that same day. By the way, sorry about the lateness of this particular video. It was a request a couple of days ago, but it wasn't until today that I decided to even do or try this new idea. But, from now on, unless something crazy happens, it'll be same-day reviews. Along with my other reviews and any Let's Plays I'd choose to start doing, because I had fun with the other one I did the other day. Now then, let's take a look at this game, shall we? It was developed and published by MiAh Games, released in early access and selling for $30 American. Now, the game is pretty directionless. It's basically just, hey, here's a bunch of survivors who landed on this island. Now survive. I mean, could you get any more bland, uncreative, and unoriginal than that? That's just it. That's the story. That's the main idea. Now build a big industrial island for some reason. So, yeah. Alright, on to the good and the bad. The first up for the good is the graphics. Now, they aren't the best. There are some things missing here and there, but for the most part, it looks really good. Great attention to detail, great color contrast, very well done blending of colors and assets. Considering the type of game this is, the graphics aren't bad to look at all. I mean, I was expecting it to be way worse. Next up is the music and the general sound effects. You're going to have to turn up the volume on the ambiance to hear it, though, and once you do, everything sounds exactly like you want it to. I mean, I can only imagine what it'll sound like once you get everything set up, and your island is this massive sprawl of machines and vehicles. I mean, I'm sure it's going to sound awesome. The music is kind of bland, but I guess it's nice enough, I suppose, for background music. The next good thing I have here for you is the gameplay. It's complicated, in some ways good, in others bad, but I'll go into that later. For now, the good kind of complicated. Like, you'll create a refinery, and realistically, it has ports that, needs resources of different types to go in and out. A pipe to dispose of the icky water, a pipe to accept oil, and a pipe to distribute the oil where it needs to go. Makes sense and works well. You need different tractors for different things, which makes sense. Pickup trucks are kind of like your basic workers that build everything for you. You have waste management for both your industry machines and your people who live in your settlement, as well as food management, water management, and just a whole lot of management, period. I mean, in terms of being an industry simulator kind of game, it's got everything you'd expect, and it's pretty damn awesome. I just love setting up a system for gathering the wood or the ore and then watching all the machines and trucks go about their business on their own. Really makes me feel like an industrial tycoon giant. The next few positives I got are kind of small but necessary, so I'm just going to sum them all up. The length of playtime here is going to be incredible. You'll probably end up sinking tens of hours into this game, which will then lead to the replayability because then you're going to want to start over and see if you can do better next time. With different kinds of maps and different challenges and difficulty settings, both the length and replayability here are amazing. Then you've got the stability, and for me, the game never bugged, never crashed, never glitched, and for an early access game, that's pretty damn impressive. Oh, and one more thing. The settings have a lot of options for you to fiddle around with so you can get the exact setting you need to be able to enjoy the game the way you want to enjoy it. And here's a clip proving it. There's also cool little things like building your own cargo ship to explore distant islands, not really sure why yet, which it looks like you can eventually customize your ship and give it guns and stuff, which leads to some very interesting implications, which is awesome. And it's just got fun little stuff like that scattered about that you'd be surprised. Fun things hidden everywhere for you to find and mess around with, so it's got a lot of content and a lot of stuff to do here and to think about. And now with all that out of the way, I just have to go into the negatives. A lot of lovers and fans of this game are going to hate me for this, but just remember, I don't hate the game. This is just my opinion, and I'm just stating things as I see them. I'm not making anything up, alright? So, first up for the negatives is the lack of a plot or motivation. Now, I know what you guys are going to say. It's an industry simulator game. It doesn't need plot. Well, I mean, that's both true and not true. I mean, sure, it's an industry simulator, and all the fun is in just building up these large machines and processes just to watch what happens, but the game is clearly trying to indicate some kind of story here. You can build guns on a cargo ship, for God's sake. It clearly states you're a group of survivors that landed on this island, and I'm sure there's more with more time put in, or at least I hope there is, but it doesn't give you any explanation or anything. It's very directionless. I mean, why are we here exactly? What did we survive? Why are we doing this? How did all of this come to be? I mean, I've played hundreds of simulator games, and I don't know, maybe 50% of the time there's some idea or story behind what you're doing, maybe more like 70% of the time, actually. Some games don't include it, and some games do, and for me, personally, it's always a negative when they don't, because there should always be a reason for what you're doing. Otherwise, you really are just wasting your time. You know what I mean? The next negative I have is a smaller one. It doesn't have a lot of tooltip pop-up bubbles to explain things to you when you hover your mouse over them, which for a game as complicated as this, that's kind of a necessity and threw me for a loop. Next up is the user interface. In my opinion, it's kind of crappy, to be honest. It's really confusing. It looks very bland, and it's really hard to navigate or to understand what's going on without seriously dedicating some time into learning it. A UI shouldn't be that complicated or directionless. The next negative I have is the second half of the gameplay, like I mentioned earlier. The general gameplay here is lacking a lot of direction, which makes the entire journey confusing as hell. Here is an example of just how confusing this game can get. Look at this clip as I speak. Now, how the hell do I mine iron? Is it here? Is it here? Is it here? All these three places look like great places to mine iron, yet the game is telling me there's no iron there. Or there's no way to mine the iron there. Or maybe I'm doing it wrong because you didn't teach me dick. Now, I did eventually figure it out with brute force, but with no help from the game. There's actually a mining designation zone button that you need to click and then tell where to mine. But then, there's another mining designation zone that you need to click on from the magical tower. So basically, the game wants you to designate a mining zone twice in two different ways to mine, rather than just making it simpler and making it a one zone that you need to use, which will lead me to my next negative. But before that, do you understand why it would be confusing? Why do I need to designate a mining zone twice? It doesn't make any sense. That's the kind of thing when I say needlessly complicated, that's what I'm talking about. It's not needed. You don't need that. You do not need two zones for mining. You only need one. Why are there two? It makes no sense to me. Now, the game is needlessly complicated, my next negative. Don't get me wrong, I understand it's a game about industry and construction, so it needs a certain level of complication. That's fine and understandable, but this game goes above and beyond the norm to make it needlessly complicated like the example I just gave. It is riddled with stuff like that, and I just don't understand why. You could get the exact same gaming experience without the needless repetitive zoning buttons and whatnot out of the way. However, after you've played this for several hours and you've kind of gotten the feel of it, it gets a little bit easier to understand and to work with and whatnot, but it's still a little just twitchy. I mean, you're trying to access something over there, but you need to build a ramp. But for some reason, this game doesn't give you the ability to build a ramp the normal way. No, instead, it's a garbage dump pile that you have to make a ramp out of, so that way you can get to the higher level. The game doesn't really tell you that either. That's just something you need to figure out on your own. Or maybe it does and it's lost somewhere in the awful tutorial. And that's the next point I want to get into. The tutorial. Wow, that was bad. It literally takes and throws an ocean's worth of text at you, explaining you what this one little thing is doing, that you will easily get lost. And it's one of those kind of tutorials that pulls you out of the gameplay and just tells you what you need to do to make something work. I hate those kind of tutorials. I want a tutorial that actually shows me what to do, makes me do it with the game, not pulling me out of the game and then making me read 300 paragraphs so that I can go back in and do it. It doesn't show you any flashing lights or buttons to direct your eyes so you know what button to click on to achieve this, because it literally took me an hour to figure out how to mine iron and copper, and several Google searches, which by the way didn't give me any results, and it was just incredibly frustrating. There's a button at the bottom of your toolbar that has mining designation. You want to click on that, and you want to use that to grab the mountain of iron or copper. Then you want to click on the mining tower that you built and click on that one's mining designation zone and recircle everything, rehighlight the previous mining zone that you created. Then you got to assign trucks to it, and then they will finally start mining. Hallelujah. Holy shit. And last but not least, the price tag. There is no chance in hell I think this game is worth $30. I think $20 would be pushing it. In my opinion, this is a $15 game. Because watch this gameplay. Are you watching? This is all you really do. You just sit there watching things happen. Then after they do, you build up for a few minutes, connect things, and then you just continue to sit there and watch. Is the game really complicated? Yeah. Does it offer a lot of stuff? Yes. But it's a lot of small stuff. It's filled to the brim with mini products. But that doesn't justify the price tag, in my honest opinion. What here justifies $30? If you're going to charge $30, then you are going to put yourself up against other $30 games. And if you want, I'll go look and find some other $30 games, and we'll find out together if it's worth it. But I'm pretty sure it's not. You know what? Screw it. I'm going to do that. Here's a couple of $30 games that are worth $30 that this game has to compete with. Hell, some of those games aren't even $30. Some of them are less than $30, and yet they've got far more production value, quality, and they're just larger in scale and size. All of them have to do with either city building, some kind of construction, some kind of survival, some kind of management or automation of some kind, and yet this game is on par with those games, and this game is not worth as much as these games are, and some of these games are charging less. You really gonna look at me and tell me that this game is as good as Frostpunk? I do not think so. So that $30 price tag is just ridiculous to me. Alright, so that's all I got to say about the good and the bad, and I'm pretty sure I am going to get a lot of hate for the negatives here, but I always say what I honestly think. And for all of you out there trying to say you can't compare this game to other games out there that are like this or like that, yeah, you can, because when you think about it, it's not about what type of game it is. It is about the experience, it is about the quality, and it is about the price. If you're charging $30, you don't just go up against $30 Factorio-like games. You don't just go up against city management or automation games for $30. You go up against every single game worth $30. Every single one. Because the normal gamer doesn't really care about whether they're playing an RPG or they're playing a city builder. They just want more bang for their buck. So if they have a chance between buying something like Hydroneer or Planet Crafter or Frostpunk for $10 or paying for this game for $30, they would go buy those other ones. That's what I'm trying to get across. Now, honestly, here's how I really feel and how I really think. I think this is actually a really good little game. Right? Sure, it has its problems, it's a little complicated, and it's a little frustrating at times. But overall, it's got the main components down right. And sure, it needs a bit of tweaking in a few areas, but overall, I think this is a very interesting and confusing little game with a lot of potential. There's not a whole lot of games out there like this one, right? So, the fact that they're doing this, and they have a game like this that looks as good as it does, plays as good as it does, and is as complicated as it is, it definitely has a market for people out there. It's definitely a game that people are going to love and enjoy. I mean, when this game is finished, I can just imagine what kind of industrial islands you can create. The possibilities are exciting. I just think that price tag is very, very much ludicrous and needs to be lowered. But otherwise, I think it's a pretty good little game. But if you're like me and you don't really like the super micromanaging, complicated nature of these kinds of simulator games, then you're probably going to want to pass on this one. But if you do like the micromanaging, minuscule details that come with like a real-life industrial complex simulator kind of game, then you're going to love this. However, even if you love it, I'd still recommend you wait for a discount. I cannot get past that $30 price tag. Alright, so that's all I got. Thanks to everybody who decided to tune in my video. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to show me some support by clicking the like and subscribe buttons, and hit that bell so you'll be notified of my next video. If you have any questions or concerns, then please let me know in the comments down below. Please keep it civil. I will not respond to trolls or hate or personal attacks. Thanks so much once again, and I'll see you all again on my next adventure. So until then, I bid you all farewell.